Welcome to the Blue Cafe. We bring you stories of faith, love, and devotion. Yeah, just kidding, please help us grow by hitting that like button. Now on to the story. I'm leaving my husband for his brother. My husband, 27M, and I, 25F, have been married 3 years. We don't have any kids together, but we had been talking about it and were planning to conceive in the next 5 years. We met through work and shared the same workplace up until around 2 years ago. He had a change in career path and I got promoted. 2 months ago he had a work night out and I was invited to go with him. We had a meal and went to a nice bar afterwards in the city. During the meal I noticed him looking at a very pretty woman who looked a bit younger than me. When we got home I asked him about her and he said she was his assistant. I didn't suspect him of cheating because our relationship was perfect. We have plenty of sex and we are super comfortable together, and if either of us had a problem we would bring it up and discuss it. Ever since the night out he has been constantly away on business and I have been suspicious. I decided to ring his boss a day after he went away on business for a week. His boss told me he was working a few hours away in a big city and his assistant went with him. I messaged my sister and asked if she fancied a girls' weekend, and as soon as we got there I decided to look at his assistant's Instagram. She posted a boomerang and tagged her hotel. After a lot of research I found that there were several bars surrounding the hotel, but I decided to go to the hotel bar itself. I explained to my sister the situation and she was fully supportive and was annoyed at my husband for going on business alone with his assistant. We stayed at the bar for a few hours and it got to about 2:40 in the morning when he walked in with his assistant under his arm. He then kissed her unaware I was watching. My sister looked so angry and began to storm over. I then grabbed her and took her out of the hotel. We went home the next morning and I didn't know what to do. I wanted revenge, so I was going to message his family about what I saw. I called my friend who is a divorce lawyer and we are trying to sort something out. I decided the best person to message was his brother. He is super attractive and nice, and when I told him about it he told me I needed better than him and was basically slating my husband with him. He came round to the house and I'm not gonna go into detail, but one thing led to another and we had the best sex ever. Now I'm going to divorce my husband for his brother. Also, you can all hate as much as you want, but I think I'm a badass. I'm so sorry that your marriage is ending like this. Beware of the brother. His jump from OMG my brother is an AH straight into your bed is highly suspect. My guess? There's some serious one-upmanship going on in the brother's relationship. Your husband scored his new, hot assistant versus his brother scoring your husband's hot wife. I doubt your relationship with the brother will last very long at all. I'm imagining being a father. And I find out if my son cheats on his wife only for my other son to start fucking his sister-in-law. I'd have one foot in the damn grave and still find it in me to grab a billy stick and beat the shit out of both of these absolute embarrassments. Like, good Christ. How badly do you need to fail as a father to raise two losers like this? As a mom I agree completely. What do you want to bet? This boy's father modeled this behavior for his sons? As a guy who took after his father and maternal grandfather way too much for way too long, I'd say that's a pretty solid bet. Sleeping with your brother's wife. That is just unholy levels of wrong. I'm leaving my husband for his brother update. Hi all, so I just wanted to come on here and clear a few things up. This update isn't going to cover a lot of the events, and the next update will probably be Friday night/Saturday morning. However, I've got a lot of hate for things I haven't really clarified and I just wanted to explain these things. So a lot of you guys are saying I ruined their relationship, which isn't true whatsoever. My husband and his brother are not close and haven't ever been. They grew up in two different households. My husband has two brothers, so his older brother and his younger brother lived with their dad whilst my husband lived with his grandma. Also, a lot of you guys are saying I'm using his brother in my emotional state. Me and his brother have discussed what we want and we have decided we only want sex, and if we end up catching feelings and in a relationship, so be it. The third thing I wanted to point out is that until the divorce is finalized, I'm moving in with my mother. I'm not going to tell him I'm moving out, but he gets back from his business trip Friday morning, hence why my update will be later this week, and when he gets back he'll find an empty apartment and 2 envelopes. One envelope will contain the pictures I got from the hotel of them kissing and the other with divorce papers. As soon as the divorce is finalized, I will find a place of my own and just focus on myself and maybe go to therapy. The last thing I wanted to say is that I know how bad my actions seem and I look like a horrible person. I do believe I acted out of pettiness and broken heart, and I am sorry to anyone who has been hurt by my actions. However, I'm grateful for all the support I've received. You guys are helping me through this. Heart. Give the pics to his boss. A subordinate having a sexual relationship is not company interest. They could get sued if she claims sexual harassment. Claims she has to sleep with him to keep her job. I'd be petty to get them both fired. I advised her of this in her first post. Please do this. It's not petty. They used company funds to finance their affair. Let's not forget the power imbalance. Sorry I forgot to include this, but I am taking this to HR. I've decided to take my sister with me for more support. Yes. Good for you. Beautifully done. I support all your choices. Don't tell him about the brother, let it happen. Trust he will find out some way and he better not be shocked. Story 2. 20 years ago, I was cheated on, but was never told the full truth. How can I get the truth, and does it really matter if I do? Advice. 20 years ago this year I was cheated on by my wife. D-Day for me was June 10, 2002, around 1 p.m. For reference, we'll call OM for the other man. We'll just call my wife, and basic titles like mom and dad to keep anyone from being embarrassed. Short backstory. My mom and dad had been telling me that my wife had something going on with OM for 3 or 4 years at that point. Even on my wedding day my dad warned me. OM was in our wedding and a good friend to me for about 10 years, so I was blinded and always argued that my wife wouldn't do that. On August 18, 2001 my dad died. I did not take that well at all. But in the aftermath of hearing the sad news, I noticed that my wife and were walking, very close, on my mom and dad's street and whispering to each other. I punched a 1967 Ford Fairlane and let my frustration out about my dad. I noticed the was jumpy when we spoke that night after the news broke. It was the first time I thought my parents may be right about my wife and I was a mechanic and I learned that from my dad. So, after he died, I couldn't work on cars without hearing his voice. It was hard on me. So, I took a job with at Wally, if you know what I mean. He knew my schedule. In fact, he was friends with the boss, and as I found out later, he made sure I was on night shift. I didn't know that at the time, but when he talked to them about hiring me, he told them I wanted a night shift. Anyway, during this time my wife says that I changed, and I may have. My dad dying hit me really hard. But she was bitchy, and I couldn't do anything right for her. She was always going to his house and taking care of his little girl that he had with his ex that left him because he would get very violent with her. He was on child support and got his baby girl 2 weeks out of the month. So, my wife would go down there and watch the baby. Or at least that's what I was being told. Also, our house was a 1/4 mile from the OM, who helped us find that house. We even lived with him for a week because the house wasn't available yet. Yes, I know this all is so obvious now, but at the time I thought we were friends. So, during all this there were times that when I got off work my wife would pick me up, and yes, OM was with her. There was SW episode 2 we went to that now is still a trigger for me. One night I was at work, my mom called me at work and told me that there was a Mother's Day dinner at church that she and my wife went to. She told me that my wife was very dressed up and had a very pretty dress on. But the problem was that my wife didn't stay at the church very long at all. She was in a hurry to leave. My mom said for me to watch out because there's something going on. To this day my wife says she went straight home and changed clothes and just waited for me. That nothing happened. So fast forward to Monday, June 10th, I had been at band practice on the Friday night before. So on Monday OM comes to me at work teared up and says my wife gave him a BJ while I was at practice. So, I go to her job down the street from my job. It's around 1 or 2 p.m. and she should be there. I know she went to work that morning because I said goodbye to her when she left that morning. But she wasn't there. They told me she went home sick. I think she went home because she knew he was going to tell me. So, I got home and confronted her. At first, she said he was lying to me. But then she busted out crying and said yes, it's true. I went crazy. So, the story OM told was that it's just the BJ, a one-time thing. But my wife says that they had been making out for about a month. Some touching and kissing. Now I know about trickle truth, but back then I didn't know what it was called, but I believed even way back then there must be much more to the story. So, I took her to OM's house later in the day, but before we went down there, I called OM's dad to tell him out of respect that there could be some trouble on their land. To my surprise he knew about it already and said his son had stolen my wife and I deserved it. I was hot at that point all over again. So we go down there and we're all screaming at each other, but I could tell that my wife and OM looked like a couple arguing. My wife at one point said, "But you told me you loved me." OM's reply was, "I don't know what you're talking about, I never said that." There was a lot said that day, but that one sticks with me. Anyway, she says that OM had told her that I slept with one of my exes, but I didn't. But she said that was why she did it. She also said that I wasn't paying her any attention because I was going to band practice all the time or working while she wasn't home. But they both swore that my mom and dad were wrong about them earlier on in the story. I don't believe that at all. There's no way that is true. Unless my mom and dad are prophets. She says that the fling only lasted the month of May into the first week of June. She said that the BJ happened on Friday, and that Saturday she went over to OM's house and broke up with him and he was mad. That OM told me hoping that I would break up with her, so he could have her. I believe this part is true. She says nothing but touching and kissing, and sweet talk happened the rest of the time, and it only started the month before. I do not believe that. The Saturday of June 15th, my boss told me to clock out and go home and check on my wife. That he had heard news that something was going to happen with my wife and OM. So, I did. I raced home to find the OM in my yard dropping off a small boat that I had given him. He told me he felt bad about everything and felt like he needed to return the boat I gave him. My wife was inside with the door locked and looked crusty, like she just woke up. This was early in the morning. This was also when I found out OM had been helping them with making my schedule. I think he was using the boat as an excuse to come talk to my wife without me there. So, for about a year we fussed, broke up, and got ready for divorce. I ended up dating the girl that I was accused of cheating on her with. Yes, that was revenge. Finally in 2004, we got back together. We never divorced. We moved on and had kids, and everything in life that married couples do. The problem is, I don't like the lies. They're so obviously lies. We just swept it under the carpet. While I love my wife and family very much, this needs to come out. I told her that she wants me to forgive her, but I can't until I know the truth. But she swears that I already know everything. But then last year she tells me that a part she left out is that she thinks OM is gay and was in love with me, and that's why he wanted to mess us up. To get with me? That's also why he didn't try to sleep with her. Man, I don't know what to think about that one. I really don't. Another part of this is about 2 or 3 years earlier I had to drag the OM off his GF that was pregnant with OM's baby girl. He was beating her because she wouldn't abort the baby. He was scared of child support. But my wife saw him do that. She knew up close that he beat his women, and still did it? Anyway, I am hoping for help asking people on Reddit because we can't afford a marriage counselor right now. Am I wrong for letting this stuff come back up? We're great as long as I don't ask about this, but we live in a small town and I see him every other day, it seems like, anyway. Does it seem like I could be wrong about my suspicions that this was lies and gaslighting? I knew way before D-Day she was cheating. My friends, family and bandmates had been talking about it for over a month. Anyway, thanks for reading if you made it this far. Any help is appreciated. To be clear, the specifics of any sexual activity they may have done isn't really the problem. The problem I have is the possibility of lies that could be still going on. On the night my dad died he talked to me about his money, and that it was in my name. He wanted us to help my mother with it. He was very worried that my wife was cheating with the OM and scared that she would divorce me and take half of the money. This did not happen, but I told my dad that she wasn't going to do that. I feel like such a fool. Stuff like this is what bothers me. My last conversation with my dad was a lie. Or at least I think it was, but I didn't know it was. How was he right? What did he see? Why didn't I see it? Why the story with more holes than Swiss cheese? It's strange that you were, and stay, a friend to a man who beat women and bullied them, not even taking into account the fact that he had an affair with your wife. Now you have seen from your own experience that cheating has no statute of limitations, as a cruel moral crime against the victim of betrayal and deception. I do not know what you expect to receive as advice, but one thing is obvious, you can really feel like a worthy person again if you end this marriage. Otherwise, you are provided with constant doubts, suspicions, triggers and obsessive thoughts. I am so sorry. P.S. If you do decide to stay, then at least change your place of residence, move to another town, so as not to face OM and other reminders of an affair. We haven't been friends at all since that happened. A few months back I almost died in a very bad car wreck. When that happened, I looked very hard at my life. I decided that I wanted to tie up all the loose ends, and this was one of them. So, one night I got hammered and drove to his house for the first time in 20 years. I talked to him about this situation. His story is very different from hers. Hers has more than his, and really all this did was cause more questions. But in our very small town we run into him at stores and stuff. Years ago, my son was with me in a checkout line, and he asked me, "Cute kid, are you sure he's yours?" I had to hold on and not get in a fight because my son was only 5 or 6 at the time, and it was just me and my kid. So, if I got in trouble my kid would have been alone. But OM knew that I wouldn't that day because of my kid. Stuff like that. By the way, are you really sure that the children are yours? I would make them a DNA test just in case. Yeah, I am. She insisted on a DNA test for me when they were born. I look back on that with nothing but good feelings. She's gone out of her way to try to do things the right way. No girls' nights, no lock screen, etc. Were you shown the results of the DNA test she insisted on, or did you just take her word for it? Was the envelope already open when you saw the results? I notice he did not respond to you. I think his wife tricked him. Sorry for the late reply. Yes, I did hold the paperwork in my hand. So, we're cool there as far as I know. I talked to the drive, and I didn't sign the birth certificate until the tests were done. But this was her wish, not mine. Judging by your words, she's an exception to the rule. Well, you're in luck. I wish you all the best. Thanks. I think he was trying to tell you something, to be honest. If you want to know the truth 20 years later about her lies, you should know it doesn't matter because she got the best of you by getting back with her. However, 20 years now is what matters. Does she make you feel the same way she did before? You had no kids, no nothing back, so maybe she is more pure now, which is what matters. Clearly, you have a reason to continue to feel this way. I would try and catch her now to see if she's anything like before. Go through her phone, and see who she's been talking to. Something is triggering you, a gut feeling is speaking to you about how you feel now and you are ignoring it like you did 20 years ago and trying to focus on something irrelevant. Wake up.